Hello and welcome to the Warcraft Academy Guide to Spoils of Pandaria. This is a pretty unusual fight without any particular boss mob and just lots of ads. If you only want a summary of the fight, use the menu at the top to skip to the end, otherwise keep watching. You start the fight on a platform in the middle of the room. The room is divided into 4 sections. 2 of the room are Mantid rooms and 2 are Mogu rooms. Initially, your raid can access 1 Mantid room and 1 Mogu room, which you can access by jumping down into it when the encounter begins. Each room is filled with crates, which you can interact with to spawn a mob, and every mob you kill will release Titan energy, which fills a power bar on your screen. Once both of the initial rooms have reached 50 Titan energy, they can activate a lever to open the door into the next room. However, you only have 4.5 minutes to do this, or the room explodes and you die. All you need to do is open enough chests and kill enough mobs to gather enough energy. Once you successfully open the door into the next room, you must repeat this process again, and once you've done that, the encounter will end. There are 4 types of chests in each room: small, medium, large, and panda. Each room has 2 panda chests shown by the green panda paw print. These can spawn one of 3 panda mobs: a Windwalker, Brewmaster, or Mistweaver. Each of the panda mobs drops an orb when they die. If you click on this orb, everyone of a particular role gains a buff. The Windwalker will use a charge that leaves a line of blossoms on the ground for 30 seconds. The blossoms do a lot of damage if you touch them, and the orb that he drops on death gives all damage dealers in that room a buff that gives their attacks a chance to do bonus fire damage. The Mistweaver heals with her damaging attacks and will also use Gusting Crane Kick, which pulls players towards her and does damage to players within 10 yards. The orbs that he drops on death gives all healers in that room a buff that gives their heals a chance to spawn a tidal wave that travels forwards. This will heal players it passes through and damage enemies. The Brewmaster has a Breath of Fire which does damage in a line that slowly rotates, which you can dodge or outrange. He'll also throw kegs at random players which damages and slows them. The orb that he drops when he dies gives all tanks in that room a buff that gives their attacks a chance to do massive bonus damage in a small AoE and stun enemies hit. Panda chests don't contribute any Titan energy to the fight, but the reason you fight them is for the buffs they provide. Now let's talk about chests in the Mogu room specifically. The small chest can spawn 3 types of mobs. There are 18 small chests in each room, and each small mob produces 1 energy. These mobs have low HP and are usually fairly easy to deal with. The small chest can spawn 3 types of mobs. Sometimes they'll spawn a group of Quillen with a stacking dot. These can just be AoE down. Sometimes they'll spawn a burial urn which constantly spawns sparks of life. The sparks do pulsing AoE damage within a few yards of themselves, and they'll also do an extra pulse when they die with a slightly wider range. Burial urn should be focused whilst they're up so you don't get overwhelmed with sparks. And sometimes they'll spawn a stone Mogu which has an interruptible cast that does damage and a dispellable dot that also does damage. There are 6 medium chests in each room, and each medium mob produces 3 energy. Medium mobs typically have more health and damage than the small ones, and the medium chests can spawn 2 types of mobs. They can spawn anima golems, which will create red pools on the ground underneath themselves, and these pools will heal mobs that stand in them. They'll also create multiple red pillars in the room. You need to have a player stand in each pillar, otherwise they'll explode and AoE the raid after a few seconds. The players that do stand in them will get swapped around with other players harmlessly. The other type of medium mob is Shadow Ritualist. This mob spawns along with his phylactery. Both the mob and the phylactery share health. He has an interruptible channel spell called Forbidden Magic that does damage if not interrupted, and has a dispellable debuff that stacks and does damage each second. Once dispelled, it jumps to another target and it will be removed completely when the mob dies, so simply dispel it when the damage becomes too high and kill the mob relatively quickly. They'll also create runes of power on the ground which buffs the haste of anything that stands in it by 100%, so move the mobs out of these. Finally, there are 2 large chests in each room. Each large mob produces 14 energy. The large mobs have a lot of health and do a lot of raid damage. Now, there are 4 different named large mobs that may spawn, but they effectively all have the same ability, only with a different element. They'll continuously cast a large AoE damage spell of their element on everyone in the room. They'll also create stone statues around them periodically, which remain until killed. The mobs gain a 10% damage buff for each stone statue alive. The statues stand still and continuously cleave the ground in front of them, which can be seen by a cone on the ground. You need to kill the statues as they spawn to keep them under control. Now, in general, the Mogu side is the easiest side to handle. The small ads on the Mogu side can be slow to deal with if they aren't clumped up, since the burial urns don't move, so you can't move them around. Take 4 small chests only, and after that take the 2 panda chests for the buffs. After they're dead, clear through each type of medium chest until they're all gone, ideally having 2 medium mobs up at all times for you to DPS. Whilst you handle these, you only need to worry about moving out of the floor puddles and making sure to stand in the red beams. Once all of the medium chests are gone, take the 2 remaining large chests one at a time. This should provide the exact amount of energy needed with the least effort. Over in the Mantid room, you have the same number of chests, but they spawn different mobs. The small chests are very easy to deal with. They can spawn 3 types of mobs. The first is Amber Encased Kunchong, who'll stand still and shoot pheromones at random players, which makes a pool at their location, and this pool does damage each second if you stand in it. The second type is Bombardiers, who'll throw explosives at random raid members that deal splash damage, so spread out. He also has a stronger version of the same ability called Gusting Bomb, and this leaves a green line on the floor that does damage each second if you stand in it. The final type of mobs are Warcallers. These will melee the tank and sometimes enrage. Whilst in rage they deal much higher damage but have reduced movement speed, so just kite them when they cast enrage, and they die very quickly either way. So don't stand in the pools, don't stand in the lines, stay spread and kite. The medium chests spawn 2 types of adds. Wind Wielders will summon tornadoes that move faster and faster around the room. They deal 250,000 damage if you touch them, and they also provide a dispellable damage buff to nearby targets. The other type is Amber Priests. These will spawn Swarmer Mantids to help them, and will place a minor healing over time buff on their allies, split evenly amongst them. The large chest will spawn a Mantid Commander. These do constant AoE damage whilst alive and will place a debuff on players called Set to Blow. This gives that player an extra action button and a debuff with 4 stacks. After 15 seconds, the player will do 400,000 damage per stack to themselves and anyone in 9 yards. To stop that happening, you can click your extra action button. This will place a bomb on the floor at your feet and reduce your stack by 1. You need to do this until all of your stacks are gone, ideally somewhere out of the way. The bombs placed on the floor have a tiny trigger range shown by the small circle and a very large explosion area shown by the big circle. If you touch the small circle, any player in the big circle will be hit, and any other bombs in that area will also explode and cause a chain reaction. Pay attention to this debuff when the commanders are up and drop the bombs over at the side. Overall, the Mantid side is the harder side to deal with. The medium-sized Mantids melee extremely highly, so it's not a good idea to take too many. Start out with 1 medium and then deal with the 2 pandas when they become clickable. After that, take the second medium and then take the large mobs one at a time. Whilst doing this, you should be continuously releasing small mobs and focusing them down whilst keeping dots and cleaves on the larger mob. Once you've done 2 mediums, 2 large and all the smalls, you'll be done. You should try to split your raid completely evenly at the start, since each group will have to do both types of rooms before the fight is over. However, it might be a good idea to start with some extra DPS in the first Mantid room. Once the room is almost clear, those extra DPS can interact with the lift hook to move from one room to the other. There is a cooldown on this, so only 1 or 2 players can use it reliably. So, to sum up, split your raid evenly between the 2 available rooms at the start, open chests to release mobs to fill the energy bar on your screen. Pull the lever once the bar in each room is full. Large chests gives 18 energy, mediums give 3, and smalls give 1. Panda chests gives strong raid buffs. On the Mogu side, stand in the red beams, move out of the red puddles, interrupt and dispel what you can, and focus mostly on medium and large crates. On the Mantid side, avoid the green lines, avoid the tornadoes, dispel and interrupt what you can, avoid the puddles, and when your extra action button appears, move away and click it to drop bombs at the side of the room. Focus mostly on small and large crates on this side. Thank you very much for watching this guide, and if you have any comments or suggestions, please post them in the comment section below, and remember to visit warcraftacademy.com for all of our other guides for Siege of Orgrimmar. If you like this guide, please do subscribe, it really helps me out a lot, I really appreciate it. Thank you and catch you soon.